Karnakar.
Hi Kiran.
Hi.
I was just like writing simple code with the statements, like with the data types which you have mentioned yesterday. So like two doubts. Like for integer, is there any maximum length
It's
fixed? Like
it has the length of 4 bytes. More than the number of
so
characters,
that
it can store a value up to 4 bytes.
so which can equal to 10 characters maximum or something like that?
No more, it should be more than.
Because I was trying. I was trying in my program. I was getting maximum 10. If I go more than 10, then it was showing me
Maybe.
like a runtime error.
Maybe. The length is 4 bytes basically. So there's actually an article, if you'd see this.
Yeah, I saw that actually. Yeah.
So here I've listed what is the length, initial length, valid length.
Oh, four means is it 4 bytes?
Yeah, 4
Or
bytes.
not four characters, right?
No, 4 bytes.
So approximately, how do we find out like how many
There they
characters
just
can?
try it out. Try
Oh, like
setting a value and
try.
see how much it's taking.
Okay.
I didn't try it.
Yeah, same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried couple of things. It was taking maximum 10. If it is going beyond 10, it was showing error, runtime error. And similarly, P also, like it was taking maximum, I think up
16.
to total, yeah, up to 16, including that decimal point.
Yeah. So every field that you see has something called internal length and external length. So the output length basically. In SAP we have internal format of the data, external format of the data. For example, if you save date, the internal format is YYYYMMDD. But when you print that date in the output, we show it in the external format. So it has to include those separators. So internal length will be 8, but external length should be 10 to include those extra 2 separators in the date. Right? So even for type P fields, it should consider the 1000 separators and the decimal point while printing. So the output length will be more than the internal length.
Okay, and last thing, so can we restrict the length through P? Like there is something in the P length decimal 2, something like that. So suppose if you say P length 10 decimal 2, will it restrict whole value also to 10 or?
That's what I'm saying. If you say P,
say length 10,
and let's say decimals 2. Sorry. So the default length is 8. If you don't specify the length, the default is 8. And every data type has a minimum length also. If you see for type P, default length is 8 and valid length is 1 to 16. And the initial value is 0.
Okay. Yeah, can you also put the quantity value more than like QAN value 123.23 instead of, can you put more than that, like more than 10? I think upon QAN.
1, 2, 3, so we have said length is 10.
Yeah, can you put 11 or 12? Yeah.
8, 9, 10.
I think it should be more. Yeah. Still it is taking full value instead of restricting to 10.
I'll just show you in debug mode.
Okay. Okay.
Here if you see, the length is 10, but the output length is 21. So it will always
Okay.
be double of the length plus 1 for that decimal separator.
Okay.
So it's basically going by the output length.
Oh, it goes by output length. Oh, not by length. What we define data object.
So
Data.
for type V fields, the output length will be double of your length plus 1 for the separator.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
So yesterday we were trying to understand these data objects, right? Why do we need data objects? Your above programs, so in your above programs, you'll be processing some data, but your above programs can process data, only the data that is locally available in the program, right? So before you can process any data, you first bring that data into your program, store it in your program memory, and then process that data. So for you to store the data in the program memory, you need to first define the memory locations. So first you need to define the memory locations, and we do that. We define the memory locations by using this data keyword. So whatever you define using the data keyword are your data objects, right? So when you define a data object, you refer this data object to a data type so that it derives the technical attributes, the type of memory, length of memory, all this stuff. So yesterday we were trying to understand how to define these data objects, and we also saw the predefined elementary data types available in the system. So we were referring our data objects to these predefined elementary types, right? So give me a moment. So today we'll see data types, how to define your own data types. So I'm creating a new program. So when I create, let's say I want to create a name variable so that I can save the name of a person. So I can say, let's say name underscore first, name underscore f, length is 10. So I can define a data object, name underscore f, to save the first name of a person, and I can refer this to this elementary data type C, right? The same way I have different names. F, sorry, name underscore M for middle name, type C, name underscore L, last name, type C. So I can create these data objects by referring to the elementary data types. Or you can also define your own user-defined data types in the program and then refer your data objects to your own user-defined data types. So if you use data keyword, it defines a data object in the program. So whatever you define using the data keyword is a data object, and that occupies memory in your program. So you can store some value in that memory. So when you create a data object, you can either refer your data objects to these elementary data types, or if you want, you can create your own data types. Okay. So you create data types using this types keyword. So whatever you define using the types keyword creates a data type in your program. Again, when you create your user-defined data types, you refer them to these elementary data types. So let's say I can create a data type called user, and I'll refer this again to the elementary type. So since I have defined this user using the types keyword, it is a data type, not a data object. So these data types do not occupy any memory. They are simply a template, right, which you can use to define your data objects. Okay. So here name F, name M, name L are your data objects. Since I've defined user using the data keyword, types keyword, it is a data type. So I cannot store any values here. If I say user equals to something, it gives me a syntax error. It says user is unknown. It's simply a template. It's not occupying any memory in your program, so you cannot store any data in that user. So whatever you define using types keyword is your data type, and whatever you define using data keyword is your data object. Okay. So what is the purpose of using user-defined data types? They are more useful when you define your structures, but in this case, for example, you are defining your data objects using referring them to these elementary types, type C. So I'm giving the length and saying type C. So right now, all the names, if I'm processing different names like the first name, middle name, last name, father's name, all these named fields, I'm defining them as character 10 fields in my program, right? Now tomorrow, the user says that is processing some data and the name of the person is processing is more than 10 characters, so it's truncating the value. So he'll come back to you saying that please increase the length of names in your program to 20 characters, because right now it's truncating if I give a higher value, more than 10 characters. So if you get a requirement to change your name fields to 20, then you have to update this at every place. You need to change it here, you need to change it here, you need to change it here. So if you have defined these names in 10 different places in your program, then everywhere you need to update your names to 20 characters, right? You need to make so many changes in the program. Instead of this, if I create one data type user and then refer my data objects to this user, instead of doing it this way, I can say all names, I'll say type user. So here user is also a data type which we have defined. Now I'm referring all the names in my program to this user data type. Tomorrow if I have to change the definition of a name, if I want to increase the length or change the type of the memory or anything, I simply have to change it here and it will be reflected for all the data types or all the data objects referring to these data types. Okay, so this is one advantage of using your user-defined data types. Okay, but as I said, when you process data from database tables, we define structures in our program. So when you define a structure, you first define a local structure. So in that case, we use this types keyword more. But for these variables, individual memories, you can either do it this way or directly refer them to elementary types. Okay, but if you have too many fields, similar fields, Then create one data type in your program and then refer all the similar fields to that data type, so that tomorrow if you have to change it, you just need to change the definition of your data type, and that change would reflect for all the data objects referring to that data type. So this, whatever you define using the types keyword, are your user defined data types. Okay? In this program, user is the user defined data type and C is the predefined data type. Any questions on this? No? Now, whatever I'm defining in my program, all these data declarations, types declarations, all these are local to the program. So I can use them only in this program. For example, if I open another program, so in this program, if you see, I have defined this name underscore f in this program. So obviously I cannot use that in this program. I cannot say name underscore f equals to something, right? Because whatever I define in that program is local to this program. The same way the data type I've created in this program, user, is also local to this program. So in another program, I cannot say data name underscore f type user, because this user is not defined in this program. Sorry, there's a data element existing with user. Let me use v underscore user. So I've defined this v underscore user in this program. And in another program, if I try to use it, it says v underscore user is unknown. So whatever data declarations or types declarations that you're doing in the program are local to that program. Okay. Now if I want to use the same data type, I've defined, let's say, some 20 data types, user defined data types in this program, and I want to use those in other programs. I want to refer the data objects of other programs also to this same data type, because I'm creating similar programs and the major data is the same in all the programs. So if you want to use this data types of one program, if you want to, right now, only the data objects of this program can be referred to the data types that you have defined in this program. But if you want to have a more global data type, so that you can refer any program's data objects to this data type, then you can create a global type in ABAP dictionary. Okay, so whatever you define in the program are local to the program. But if you want to have a more global data type, then you can also do that in ABAP dictionary. We call them data elements. So we have something called data elements and domains. Okay, so let's see how to create these global data types, data elements. To create a global data type, go to SC11 transaction. Here you select the data type radio button. Since these are global objects, they should be in customer namespace. That means they should start with either Z or Y. So let's say Z July user. So give some name for your data element. Click on this create button and select the first radio button, data element. If you want, you can give some description here, and This data element provides the semantic attributes. Okay. And you can attach a domain to this data element to get the technical attributes. What is the type of field, length of field? All these technical attributes can be derived from a domain. You can attach a domain. Or else, if you don't want to attach a domain, you can simply select this predefined type radio button here and directly maintain the data type and length. So click on this F4 help. These are the predefined types available in the system, so you can select one of them. I'm trying to create a character field, so I'll select this cat string. So the data type is character and length is 10. Just activate it. Now I've created a data element with this name and I have maintained the technical attributes. What is the data type and length here? And now in my program, I can refer my data objects to this data element. So these are global data types. So in this program, I can refer. It recognizes. Okay. Now another program's data object also I can refer to this data element, and it recognizes. Right. So these are your data elements, are your global data types. So you can create your own user-defined types if you want. If you want to create a local type in one program, you can use the types keyword. If you want to create a global data type so that you can refer many programs data objects to your data type, then you can create it in S11. We call them data elements. Vijeta?
Yeah, Kiran, I'm not sure if this question is out of scope, but in one of the classes you mentioned that the repository objects are all the objects like tables, programs and functions. So I see that when we create data element, it's also a repository object, am I correct?
Yes. Data elements, domains are also repository objects.
So these will be by default cross application, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
They're client independent.
Yeah. Okay.
When you say cross application, it has a different meaning in SAP. Cross applications are not restricted to one application area. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Okay. Thanks. That's.
Indra Kumar.
Hi Kiran, I got a question. Can we define the data objects as global like we did for the types?
No. Data objects are something you are defining a memory in the program, right? So you need to define it in the program, what memory you want. But when you define this memory, you need to refer them to a data type so that you can get what type of memory it is, length and all this stuff, right? So data types you can have global, but data objects are always defined in the program. It doesn't make sense defining a global data object, right?
Okay. For an example, I use a set of variables in the program. The same set of variable will be used in other programs. So, do I need to define those variables again?
You can either.
Do I need to?
Yeah, you can either define them again or simply define them in one include program and include it. So
okay.
We use include programs for that. For example, not just these data objects, if you have some code in your program and you want to repeat the same code in another program, so you want to reuse it, you can simply keep that code in one include program and include it wherever you want that code.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Repeating. Okay. Bhushan? Bhushan, you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. While writing a program, who will know what are all the global data types, data elements available?
You don't need to know that. There are too many. There will be thousands of data elements available. So how do I know which data element I should be using to create my data object? typically, if you're trying to process data from a certain database table, for example, let's say you want to process the material number information. So the user will give you one material number and he'll say that based on this material number, please show me the description of this material number. And these material descriptions are stored in one database table, right? So you want to process the data that is stored in this database table. So right now the database table where the material descriptions are stored is, if you go to S11 and give MAKT as the table. So MAKT is the database table where we store these material descriptions. So there is some data saved in this table and you need to process this data. So when I open this table, here if you see the field name is MATNR and there's one column called data element. So this field is referred to the data element MATNR. So the data element name is also MATNR. So I can define a data object in my program and I can refer that to this data element so that the database field and my data object are of similar type and length. So by looking at the table, you can identify which data elements you can use to define data objects in your program. So if you're processing material number, refer your data object to this MATNR data element. If you are processing the language, this is a language field, so data element is SPRAS, so refer it to that data element. So that's how you do it. You don't need to explore all the data elements available. There are thousands of data elements. Okay, and these data elements are also reusable. Once I create one data element, then I can reuse it. Wherever I need that same similar definition, then I can simply reuse it rather than recreating every time. Okay, so if you see this MATNR data element, if I do a where use list on this MATNR data element, so they've just created one data element MATNR for material number and they've maintained some attributes here. And if I do a where use list, this is being used in so many programs, tables, everywhere. So we'll see that it's going to take some time. So any questions on these data types? How to define user-defined data types, both locally in your program as well as globally in your system? Vijita?
Yes. I also saw that you, when you were defining the data element, you selected predefined types and not domains.
Yeah.
Would you be explaining domains later, or
we'll be talking about it right now. Before I explain you about domains, I want to show you what's the disadvantage of using a predefined type compared to using a domain.
Okay. Okay.
Annamilai, I've sent you the audio pin. Annamilai, I have a question.
Kiran, would you just show me the screens where you created the user-defined data types?
This one? Go to S11,
Yeah,
give the data, select this radio button data type, give the name,
okay.
then click on create, it will give you one pop-up, select the data element radio button, then you'll be taken to this screen. Here you give some description, maintain the data type, length, then activate. Okay, it will ask you to maintain something called a field label. You can ignore it for the time being. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Now let's try to understand what are the advantages of referring your data objects to data elements compared to these elementary types. Technically both are same. For example, here if I say my length is 20 for this data element, since these data elements and domains are global types, the moment you change something, the moment you change the data element, then whichever data object or table fields that are referring to this data element will be updated. Okay. So it's still taking time. So it's been used in so many programs and fields. So here I've defined this vUser data type, user defined data type in my program locally, and I'm referring my data objects to this vUser as well as to this name field, right? Sorry, to this data element. Somebody is calling me, so my mind is going there. So technically both are same. Even this zjuly underscore user, I maintain it as character 20 field. vUser is also of length and type C. So name F, name M, and name L. All these three fields are technically same, right? There's no difference. But what's the advantage of using these data elements? So to demonstrate that, let me create two selection screen fields. Let's say P underscore, and try using the standard SAP names. In SAP material number, we have this field MATNR, M-A-T-N-R. So if you want to create a material number field, use the same name, field name, MATNR, so that you get used to it. These names are derived from German language, so they might sound a bit weird, but try using them so that you get used to it. So if we saw that the data element in the database table, the material number field is referred to this data element MATNR, right? So in my program also, I'll refer my field to this MATNR data element. Okay. So one field I'm creating using referring it to MATNR data element, and if you see something is wrong. If you see this MATNR data element, it is character 18 field. Okay. So another field, let's say I'll define PA MATNR, and I'll refer it to the elementary type, 18 characters, and it is type C. So now P MATNR and PA MATNR both are technically same, but P MATNR I'm referring it to the data element, PA MATNR I'm referring it to the elementary type. Right. So it's working time. Just give me one moment. Okay. I'm not speaking anything actually. Vijita, you have a question?
I'm sorry, I forgot to lower my hand. I'm sorry.
Something's wrong with the system, I guess. Let me use a different system. So again, I'll repeat this. Let's say I'll create two parameters fields, p underscore matnar, referring to this data element matnar, and pa underscore matnar, let's say type C, and length is 18. Okay, and I can say data so the data element for this material description is MAKTX. I'll simply write one select statement. Select into v underscore MAKTX where matnar pa matnar. So in the first select, I'm comparing the value in PA matnar to fetch the description. In the second case, in the second select, I'm comparing the value in P matnar to get the same description. Let's say write P underscore matnar. Hopefully this should be fast. Okay. Now if you see, one field I'm referring it to the domain, or sorry, data element. The other field I'm referring to the elementary type. When I execute, it shows me two input fields on the screen. Both are technically same, both are character 18 fields. But if you look at this, in this pmatnar field, I said every input field that you see in SAP, it has two things. One is F1 help, where you can read more about that field, and F4 help, which will give you the possible entries that you can make in that field, right? So in my program, I did not write any extra code. I simply referred my field to this data element. So by doing that, when I press F1 in this field, I'm getting this documentation saying that it's a material number field, and what is material? I can click on this and I can read more. So I'm getting this documentation automatically for my field. So the user can easily read and understand what this field is. But the user does not know what are the valid inputs he can give in this field. What is a valid material number that he can enter in this field, right? In that case, he can select this F4 help. And he can search for a material number by all these categories and select anyone that he feels he wants to see, right? So I'm getting this extra functionality into my program just because I referred it to the data element. Okay, so at the data element level, you can maintain these things. You can maintain the documentation for your field. You can maintain the F4 helps. We call them search helps. If I open this matnar data element, Now when they have created this data element, at the data element level, you can maintain this documentation. So whatever documentation you maintain here will be displayed when the user selects F1 for the field, right? The same way, here they have maintained something called a search help. So whatever search help they maintain here, that will be triggered when the user selects F4. So any field you refer to these data elements will get this functionality automatically without you having to write any code in your program. So for the second field, since I've referred it to my elementary type, there is no F1 help available. If I say F1, it says no documentation available. Similarly, if I press F4, nothing happens. There is no F4 help. So if I have to provide this to my field, then I have to write at least 50 lines of code in my program. And if you want to have the same thing for different in different programs, then you have to repeat that code in all the programs, right? Instead of that, simply create one data element, maintain the documentation and the search helps at the data element level, and they will be automatically derived into your programs without you having to write any extra code. Okay, so that's one advantage of these data elements. Now, when you're creating this data element, you can either attach a domain to this to derive the technical attributes, or we try to use a predefined type, right? So what's the advantage of attaching a domain to your data element? I'll input 23 as the material number in both the fields, okay, and execute, right? If you see this field VMAKTX, if I press F5, when I execute this select statement, the first select statement, I'm referring to the value in PA-MATNR, the second field, which is referred to the elementary type. When I execute this select, I don't get any description in my program, and there are few system fields which will tell you whether the particular statement executed successfully. In this case, whether the select statement could fetch any data from the database or not, I can identify by looking at this system field psi sub rc. So if it is 0, that means the select was successful. If it is non-zero, then the select failed. So here psi sub rc is 4. That means that select statement could not find any entry in the database table MAKT with the material number 23. Let's open this MAKT table to see if the 23 material number exists. Look, and I'll take your question in a while. Okay. There is a material number with 23, but this material number is a character 18 field, right? So here they are saving the material number as 23 with 16 leading zeros. There are 16 leading zeros. So for a character field, the system will compare byte to byte. So for a character field, 0, 2, 3 is different from 23. For a numeric field, it will ignore the leading zeros. But for character field, it will compare byte to byte. So if you want to get this, process this material number 23, then you need to compare the value with 16 leading zeros. Only then the system will find. Now, on the selection screen, I gave the same 23 material in both the input fields. The first field failed because in this field the value is 23. I'm trying to compare a value 23, but in the database it is stored with 16 leading zeros, right? Now let's see what happens in the second case. When I execute this, it could fetch the description and psi sub rc is 0. This select was successful. Why? On the selection screen in both the fields I gave the same 23 material number. So if I look at this PMATNR, the system has automatically added these leading zeros to the field. So this we call conversions, internal and external formats. Okay, so the system has automatically converted the value to internal format. Now when I try to write this PMATNR in the output, it will automatically suppress the zero. So it's converting to the external format. Okay, so for the user, you can't expect him to input 23 with 16 leading zeros, because for him both are same. 023 is same as 23. But technically, since this is a character field, 023 is different from 23. So what this field is doing, it's automatically, when I'm trying to compare it in a select statement internally, it is converting to internal format, and when I'm trying to print that value in the output, it is converting to external format. So this internal external format conversion is taking place automatically, again without me having to write any code or worry about it. Whereas when I referred my field to this elementary type C, then I'm not getting any conversions. So how am I getting these conversions into my program? At the domain level, here the domain name is also MATLAB. If I go to this domain level, they are maintaining something called conversion routine at the domain level. Apart from your data type and length, we also have the option to maintain a conversion routine. So this conversion routine is taking care of converting your data to internal and external format. So this functionality I'm getting into my program. So there are some advantages. There are few things you can maintain at the data element level. There are few things you can maintain at the domain level. So when you use these data elements and domains, you get that extra functionality into your program without having to write any extra code. So that's why when you create a domain or data element, refer it or attach a domain to that data element, so that you can also take advantage of these conversion routines. Any questions on this? So since these data elements provide these extra options or extra functionality to our programs, we always refer our data objects to these data elements compared to elementary types. So whenever you are trying to process some data, we always create data objects referring to these data elements. So there are quite a few data elements already available, created by SAP. But if you want to create your own data elements, you can also do that. Okay. So I've created one data element in the other system. So we'll do it one more time. And these data elements and domains are reusable. I'll create the same data element in this system. So I'll select the Dario button, this. User. So here I can attach a domain. If you have a domain that you know, you can use it. Let's see if a domain with name user exists. It does not exist. So if you already have a domain, you can simply give that domain name here. For example, if I want to create a character 18 field for a material number, in this case, I know that there's a domain called MATLAB exists. So I can give that MATLAB as the domain, and it will automatically derive those technical characteristics. Right? But since we are trying to create a user field, I can create my own domain. If I don't find any existing domain that I can use, you can also create a domain. There are two ways you can create a domain. One is in S11, you can select this domain radio button and create a domain and then use it here, or simply give some domain name. Okay, you can give any name. Hit enter. If it exists, it will pick up the technical attributes. Otherwise, it says the domain is not active. Okay, and then double click on this. Save your data element. I haven't saved it. Now it is saying the domain is not available. Do you want to create a domain? Say yes. Here you give some description. Maintain the data type. Let's say character, number of characters 20, and activate. So if you want to maintain a conversion routine, you can do it here. So again, you're getting that functionality. The F1 helps, F4 helps, conversion routines in your program, only if you maintain them at the data element and domain levels. If you don't maintain it here, you won't get that functionality. So what exactly this conversion routine is, we'll try to see that later. So it's basically a function module. So I'll talk about it later. For the timing, simply understand that there's something called conversion routine, which takes care of converting data from internal to external formats and external to internal formats. So I've created this domain, and I've attached it to the data element. Then I can activate it. So when I create a data element, I can either attach a domain to that, or I can select a predefined type and maintain the data type and length directly here. But with domains, you can take advantage of these conversion routines, value range, all these things. So any questions on this data elements and domains? What are they and why do we need them? What's the use of data elements and domains? Vijita?
Yeah, value range is the same thing as F4 help. Is it used to maintain that?
No, value range will tell F4 help, it is picking up from the search help that we maintain. Basically, value range will tell me what all the possible entries I can make, but it won't give me that F4 help basically. But
Okay.
for example, I'll open a structure. Okay. I see one program, and in that program they have referred a data object to this structure. Okay. And this structure has these fields. There's something called dis mode, up mode, right? Now, how do I understand what possible entries I can pass on to this field in that program? Okay. So if it is a selection screen field, they might have maintained a search help, so you can get it from the search help. Otherwise, if it is some data object that you see and you want to understand what are the possible entries that you can make, then at this domain level, in value range, I can maintain this. So if you pass A, this is the option. If you pass E, this is the option, right? So these are the possible entries that you can make for that field. So value range will give you what are the possible entries that you can make in a particular field.
So if a user enters with any other value, it will throw error?
No, this won't validate basically. It only tells you value range. For single values, it does validate, but you can also maintain something called value table. If there are too many entries, for example, if you look at this MATLAB data element, they have maintained a table here as the value table. So all the entries that you see in Mara table are the valid entries for a material number, because that's the material master. So this value table will tell you what are the possible entries that you can make. We maintain something called a check table. So the check table will validate whatever entries you make, provided you input through a screen. Programmatically, it won't validate anything automatically. If you try to update some data in this table through a program, then no validations are done. You need to validate it in your program before updating. But if I'm trying to input data through a screen, then if I have a check table, then it will validate. So we'll see that when we talk about database tables. For the timing, just understand what is data element, what is domain, what are the advantages of using data elements and domains. Okay.
Okay.
We'll go in deep about these data, what are the other things that you can do at the data element and domain levels. We'll discuss that later, maybe after 2-3 weeks.
Okay.
Lakshmi?
Yeah, why do we refer the data objects to data element? Why can't we refer directly to the domain? Why we go through data element and then domain?
Domain is not a data type. Data elements are data types.
Okay.
And you can refer your data objects to data types.
Okay. So what's the basic difference? Like
Data element provides the semantic attributes, domain provides the technical attributes.
Okay.
So at the data element level, you can maintain the documentation, search helps, field labels, right?
Okay.
For example, here they have maintained something called a field label. If I say MAKT, here it's showing me the field names, right, on the screen. here I can select field label in my settings. Then instead of showing the field names, it will show me the field descriptions, whatever they maintain
Correct.
in the field label. So you can maintain these things at the data element level. And at the domain level, you maintain the technical attributes, the type of
It's
field length.
basically for understanding, for the user to understand what that particular field
Yes.
refers to.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
So is it clear? Data elements and domains. So since there are advantages of referring your fields, data objects to these data elements compared to elementary types, we always refer them to data elements. So whenever you define a field, we refer our fields to data elements instead of these elementary types. Okay. So I was talking about the internal and external format. Just to give you a good example of that, let's say I'll define one character 10 field, and here if I say here, if you see all these fields I'm using, Psi sub RC, Psi datum, Psi tabix, Psi dbcd, these are your system fields. In debug mode, if you give this syst as the structure name and hit enter, you can see there are some system fields available. So these fields will be filled in runtime based on what you're doing. So there's a significance for each field. So we can use these system fields to understand while you're running in the program whether a particular statement was executed successfully or not. So you can identify that by using the Psi sub RC field. The same way, Psi datum is the system field which will give you the current date. Okay. Right now, as I said, the date format in SAP is YYYYMMDD. So it's showing the date in that format. And when you show this date to the user in the output, then we should show it in the external format based on the personal settings the user has set for his user ID, right? So when I say this write statement, it automatically converts it to the external format. When I say write Psi datum to this vdate, the same date is converted to the external format. Now, different users will have different personal settings, right? Somebody wants the data in this format, other person may want to see the date in a different format. So wherever you have data which can have different external formats, then SAP has this option where you can have a conversion routine, in which case you can convert the data to internal and external formats. But you cannot save this data in the database in different formats. In database, it should always be in one format, right? So that when you compare it in your select statement, you can compare it in one format, irrespective of what the format the user is giving. Otherwise, what happens if I try to give an input field as date to the user, let's say p_date type, if I try to give this date, then the user will input the date in his external format, right? But in the database, what is my format? It's MMDDYYY. Okay. The user will input the date in his personal format, but in the database, you cannot compare different formats, right? When you save it in the database, it should always be in one format, irrespective of what the external formats are. If you try to save these dates in different formats, then it won't work when you write a select statement. For one user, the same date is stored in one format, but if somebody else runs this program and he gives the date in a different format, your select will fail. So that's why we store always in one format internally, but externally we can have different formats. So if you see this pdate, I've entered the date in external format, but it has converted that to internal format automatically. Okay, so you get these things, these advantages in your program without having to write any extra code. Otherwise, I have to, if I'm not referring them to these data elements, then I have to manually convert these fields to internal format before I compare it in a select statement, then again convert it to external format before I print it in the output and show it to the user. So any questions on this part? Data elements, domains, advantages of data elements, your user defined types. No? Clear for everyone? Okay. So what keywords we have learned so far? We have learned data keyword. So data keyword defines the data object. We've seen the types keyword. Types keyword creates the data type in your program, local data type. Then the other keyword I'll talk about today is parameters. So we'll discuss this parameters keyword. Tomorrow I'll explain you certain variations of a select statement so that you can create your first program. So I'll give you one requirement in tomorrow's class. So I've been using this parameters keyword from the beginning, but I haven't explained it formally. Parameters keyword creates something called a selection screen. So what it does is it does two things. Parameters keyword. It is creating a selection screen. It is creating an input field on the selection screen. Let me use a single field. Now this parameters keyword is creating a selection screen with one input field, and the length and type of this input field is derived from whatever type specification I give while creating this parameters field, right? So it's actually doing two things. It is creating a selection screen field with one input field. It's creating one input field on the selection screen on your screen where the user can input a value. It is also defining a memory in your program with the name, same name, pmatnar. So it's also defining a memory. It's as good as a data statement. And it is linking that input field on the screen to your program memory, so that whatever you input in that field will be stored in this pmatnar memory. The same way, whatever you store in this pmatnar memory will be shown in that field. Okay, so it's doing two things. It's defining a data object in the program with this name pmatnar. It's also creating one input field on the screen, and it is linking this program memory to this input screen. That's why whatever the user inputs here on the selection screen, he is entering the data on the presentation layer, and my program is running in the application layer. So it's whatever he inputs in the presentation layer, it's stored in the program in that memory pmatnar, which is defined by this parameters keyword. Okay, so parameters keyword will create a selection screen with one input field, and right now it simply shows the field name, right? So if you want to have some label for your field, you can click on this, go to text elements, selection text, and here you can either pick from dictionary. Since I've referred this field to MathNar data element, if I say dictionary and hit enter, it will pick up from the field label maintained for that data element, or else I can give my own description also and activate. Okay, I've maintained a label now. So if I see, instead of showing the field name, it shows material number. So for the timing, if I say give me one input field where I can give you some selection criteria based on which you can process your program, then use this parameters keyword to create that input field. Okay, so it's as good as defining a data keyword. The syntax is the same. Instead of data, you say parameters. Otherwise, everything else is the same. You say data, field name, type, your data type reference. The same way for parameters also, you say parameters, field name, type, and the data type reference. Okay. So the next thing I'll be talking about is structures, and we'll see the select statement so that you can work on something for this weekend. So we'll see that tomorrow, because I don't think we have enough time to start with these structures. Shay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
The data stuff is stored in the database and parameters are stored in the program memory, right?
Come again, please. Parameter is stored in program memory, and what's the other thing you're asking?
And data is stored in the database, right?
No. You are defining data objects using data keyword. So even data objects are stored in your program memory. Those are local memory locations.
Okay.
So whatever you define in your program are local memories for this program. So they are active when you execute the program, and they get cleared off when the program execution is over. So their lifetime is till the program is running. Once the program execution is over, all that memory gets cleared off. Prashant?
Hey Kiran, I sent an email regarding the pace of the program compilation, etc. in the client which we are working. So any chance you can talk to him and see?
I've actually sent him a mail yesterday. I didn't get any response on that. I'll follow up. Because sometimes it works fine, sometimes it becomes slow. I'll follow up. So the last time I complained about it, saying that the system is too slow. Sometimes in the class, just to activate it takes 5 minutes. Then he asked, whenever you feel that, he gave me an alternate system to use. So that's what I'm using today. So I'll see if I can move everyone to this system, because it looks good.
Okay, that would be good, yeah.
Hardik?
I have actually typed in the question.
Can a parameter keyword be used to create a drop-down menu for user to select? Yes. Again, as I said, every new keyword that you use for the first time, do an F1 and you can see all the options. So we call them list box drop-down menu. So I can also have a list box. So it's taking time. So if you see F1 for these parameters, one of the additions, you say as list box, so then it will create a list box. If you say as checkbox, then it will create a checkbox on the screen. So you can do a lot of things on the selection screen. Again, we'll be discussing these selection screens in detail later. Right now what I'm concentrating on is just to give you an overview of everything so that you can start with your first program. So once you develop your first program, you'll start feeling comfortable, and then we'll explore all these things in detail one by one. Okay, so we'll be talking about the selection screens in detail. We'll be talking about these data elements, domains in detail. So everything we'll be talking in detail. So right now I just want to give you an overview so that you can get started with your first program. Sorry. Here you can use different. So if you say as list box, then it will create a drop down box. If you say radio button, it will create a radio button, checkbox. So you can do all these things. Okay. Fine, then I'm stopping the recording.